and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, Rashid, and I want to thank each and every one of you for giving me another hour of your day and another day of your time. I'd like to thank each and every one of you who chose to join us today on this significant program. Always remember that your favorite channel is this, okay? So again, thank you for joining us live on the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, anywhere on God's green earth. This is your platform for empowerment, education, and elevation. This is the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your brother, your host, and your friend, Rashid. Let's get into it. The name of the show is Live on the Edge of War, Escalation or Capitulation. Now, there is something in that title because I was thinking about, I was watching a lot of the things that are going on, and all of the pundits and all of the prognosticators and all of the people who are giving their thoughts on what Iran should and should not do in retaliation for the blatant act of war. If you see smoke coming across the screen, I have incense blood. Okay, but anyway, that's sage to get the negative energy out. But anyway, you hear them saying what they believe that Iran should do, but Iran should not do. What they think Iran is going to do and what they think Iran is not going to do. All of the options that can come to their mind that they present to the people, and most people take it as facts, okay? But on this platform, what we pride ourselves in doing is causing those atoms and that gray matter up there to start igniting like a combustion engine so that we can provoke intellectual thought, okay, on these matters. And I think some people purposely and willfully misrepresent things to you so that they can paint a certain narrative. Others just go with the flow and whatever most alternative media platforms say, they accept it and then they jump on it and it becomes their mantra also. But not here. We examine all the things that go before us. We try to tell you the truth at all costs, regardless to whom or what. We are not a respecter of persons. We are a respecter of truth, okay? Now, let's get into this a little bit, all right? Think about this. I have heard all of these pundits talk about Iran's restraint and how Iran should not play into the hands of Israel wanting a larger conflagration in the Middle East and North African region, okay? And they're saying that Iran knows that this is a trap and that they should not respond or they should respond indirectly. That is an option. That is an option. And that's a legitimate option for people who think that way. But let me talk to you guys and let's see if certain things resonate with you. All right. So as we talk, I pulled up something. In 2022, the New York Times reported that Israel told the United States that it had killed more Iranian officers. Now, this is not me saying this. This is in 2022. All right. In 2023, guess what happened? Israel killed some Iranian officers. All right. Now let's go to 2023. Officers were killed and bystanders and civilians, I might add, and Syrian military personnel and Syrian citizens were killed also. Now, let's go to something else. 2024. Most of you think that Israel acted without the approval or the knowledge of the United States. I'm going to pose something to you as we touch this topic, and we'll see if common sense and that great matter starts to pick up what is being put down by a lot of these people. Okay, America said immediately after the bombings of in Moscow. That Ukraine had nothing to do with it, and it was ISIS and blah blah blah, and they came up with that immediately. And you're telling, and Russia is the largest nation on the planet now, and has the largest nuclear arsenal in the world now. America, which lies some thousands of miles away, wants you to believe that she has the intelligence within minutes after the bombing on the culprits and who did it and who didn't do it in Russia. But she was left in the dark on Israel. Now, that would be fine to believe, except this. The CIA and the Mossad work hand in hand, and so does the MI6. All right. Here's another one. We've known since the beginning of the crisis in occupied Palestine that the United States was deploying, and so was Britain. Let's not leave this out. The UK is doing this also. They have been deploying troops, radars, missiles, and everything else to the region. They have, as a matter of fact, last week or this week, a U.S. general went to Israel to fashion out a plan, a response plan to something, a high probable thing that Iran may strike back. Okay. Now, again, if we know these things, and the United States has intelligence agencies, agents all over the occupied Palestine area and the region. She has military forces in occupied Palestine, illegally in Syria. She has covert operatives in Lebanon. She has military officers and spy elements in Jordan and in Iraq. And she had no idea that this was happening. I'm asking, okay? The reason I'm asking is because that's what was being reported. And I just want to see if anybody believed that, okay? Because when these people are reporting, they are telling you that they're trying to remove America from the situation. They're trying to remove the UK from the situation when we know that Israel is a creation of both the UK and the US. Who arms Israel? All right. To a large extent, to the largest extent, it's the United States. Who funds Israel's budget and military budget also? To the largest extent, it's the United States. Who said that they will continue to arm Israel regardless of the international outcry? The United States and the UK. And who gives Israel political cover to do whatever they want to do and violate international law at will? Because remember, she bombs, and she openly says that she bombs Syria and Iraq. These are open violations of international law against the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of these nations. There's no outcry. All while the United States, Great Britain, France, and everybody else is crying to the top of their lungs about the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. Huh? So listen, this is what Reuters reported. All right. You guys give me a chance to talk with you a second, okay? This is the headline from April 11th. U.S. has told Iran it was not involved in Damascus attacks. Now, can we believe that? Because I've heard a lot of YouTube channels, a lot of the so-called informed alternative media channels go along with that line of thinking. And that line of thinking would be okay, except for 1 week prior to the bombing of the Iranian embassy in Syria. The United States launched an unprovoked, illegal aerial attack on Syrian forces and killed a high-ranking IRGC advisor and his staff. What are the odds of that? I'm asking. What are the odds of that? 1 week before the Israelis bombed the embassy or the consulate building or whatever you want to call it in Syria. Do you believe in coincidences like that? Especially while the United States is constantly arming Israel and is trying to push an appropriation bill for Israel to receive even more military aid? Huh? I'm asking you these things because nobody else does. I'm presenting these things before you so that you can do a thorough analysis for yourself and come up with a logical conclusion, your own hypothesis, and not my hypothesis, and not those of other media outlets. I want you informed so that you can make that decision, okay? Think about that. So check it. Let's go to something. Give me a second. Let me pull this up. So the U.S., now this is what Iran has said, okay? This was right after the bombing, okay? And this is the headline, and this is from Press TV. I told you I keep receipts, okay? So listen. I hope this thing is not freezing. Okay. So the headline is this: U.S. should be answerable. Foreign minister after deadly Israeli attack on Iran consulate. And this is what was reported. And I'm not going to read the whole thing because the article is not too long, but I just want to read something. Then I'll be reading it with you all for the first time. I just kept it because of the headlines, okay? The article says this: Iran's foreign minister says, as the Israeli regime's biggest supporter, the United States should be answerable following an earlier deadly attack by Tel Aviv against the Iranian consulate in the Syrian capital, Damascus. Hossein Amir Abdullahian made the remarks in a post on X, formerly Twitter, in early Tuesday. The Monday attack resulted in the martyrdom of Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Zahidi, a commander of the Quds Force of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, his deputy, and 5 of their accompanying officers. So this was not just a hit on one. It wasn't a hit on 2. They took out 7. So think about this. Within a 2-week span, the United States martyred a high-ranking official and his mid-level staff of the IRGC. You're telling me that this is not deliberate? This is not coordinated? Huh? Okay. Now, remember that this also takes place, and there was an unknown attack in Syria on positions of the Syrian forces and the Iranian forces days before that, and there were attacks on advisors that were in Iraq days before that. So all of this is coincidence. I'm asking you these things. You want me to believe that all of these things are incidents that just happen out of the blue. Okay. Now, for those of you who are looking at me with this beard, I hate beards. I got to say this before we get back into this. I have real sensitive skin. Sometimes I can't shave for days and sometimes a week or 2 because I have real sensitive skin. So I have to look like this right now. So I'll get it shaved short. But let's go further. It says, Iran's ambassador to Damascus, Hossein Akbari, confirmed that the attack had resulted in the martyrdom of 7 people, but said the exact number of the martyrs was yet to be specified. So now we have a report that comes right after the bombing that says Iran says America should be held responsible. Okay. Right now, listen what this is a headline which I just saw. I just clicked and refreshed the screen. It just popped up. Okay. So this is not me. This just popped up. This is from Sky News. Okay. The headline is this: Middle East latest. U.S. moving additional assets to region amid fears of Iran attack on Israel. That's the headline. That is the headline. Now, we have heard all of these channels talk about how negotiations going on. And we've heard how Italy and everybody else say they talk to Iran and say, don't escalate. Okay. We're going to get to the bottom of all this doublespeak in a few minutes. You know how we do. We're going to get to the bottom of all of this doublespeak so that you'll have a clear understanding of what's being, the burden is being put on the back of the victim so that they can let the criminal go free. You know what this is like? This is like your house being robbed, right? And a couple of your family members being martyred, right? And you see this guy running out the door with a gun in his hand. He has material that he took from the house. He has blood over his body. The police pull up and they look at him and ask him, is he all right? And let him go and go into the house and then hold guns on the people who are tied up who survived the mass shooting. This is what this is like. I want you to understand that. I want you to really think about what I just said to you, because this is what the Western world is presenting to everybody else. And this is what mainstream and a lot of alternative media continue to promote. Iran should restrain itself. Do not fall in the trap of what Israel laid out. How long should he show restraint? I just gave you in chronological order the massive killings of multiple IRGC officials, high-ranking and mid-level IRGC officials. Now, let me ask the United States. Let me ask Italy. Let me ask France. Let me ask the UK. Let me ask Germany. Let me ask any nation of NATO. If Iran bombed your embassy, prior to that killed some of your officers of your military, would you be this understandable? Would you call for restraint? Or would you attack? Because we've seen you attack nations on false pretenses. We've seen you attack nations because you were angry. We see you attack nations because you want their resources. We see you demonize and attack leaders because they don't bow to the dictates of the West. And you want a nation to continue to suffer death by 1,000 cuts. And you're doing the cutting. On the front end, you're saying that I'm an honest broker. And on the back end, you have about 12 blades in me. And you're telling me not to react. Just bleed to death. Just bleed to death. And this won't escalate into something other than this. Are you crazy as hell? Which man, which woman would allow that to happen? See, self-preservation is the first law of nature. Without the implementation of that law, life is not worth living. If you do not have the right to defend your life and that stuff that you've acquired and defend your family's lives, what use is living? And any woman, any good woman, any educated, any civilized woman would not want a man that will allow strangers to come in there and prey upon her and the children, and the man sit there docile and turn the other cheek. She would say he's not a man. So how could we ask nations to do the same thing when they're constantly the victim of aggressive actions by the Western world? I'm asking you these things because other people don't. And I'm presenting them in a way that can resonate with you because others don't. Just think. Let's go to something real quick since we're on this. All right. All right. According to the English dictionary, all right, and according to Google, this is what honest broker means. Remember, the United States said they were trying to broker peace in the Middle East, and they were trying to stop this thing from escalating. We're going to get into all that in just a second. All right. And this is what comes up when you put in these words, meaning of honest broker. And this, when you go down a little bit, it says people also ask, what is the role of an honest broker? And listen what it says. An honest broker is a neutral intermediary person or system who is a workforce member and is certified to collect specific health information from the tissue or data bank, remove all patients identified. But listen, we're going to skip all that other nonsense. We're just going to go to the first part. An honest broker is a neutral intermediary. So now let's see if America fits that description, because she says that she is an honest broker and she's trying to broker peace. Okay. That's what she's doing. Okay. So where is it at? Okay. An article comes out today on RT. The title of it is this: U.S. sends reinforcements to defend Israel. Now, I want all of you for a minute to forget that you're from the West. Those of you who are from the West. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to try a study of common sense. Okay. Just for 1 minute or 2 minutes or whatever, however long this part right here takes. Let us do this for a minute. Remove all prejudices from ourselves, religious, racial, sexual, ethnic wise, or whatever. Just remove that for a second. And let's just look at this in the manner of humanity. A human being will look at another human being, okay? Let's do that for a minute. Now, if someone were to come in and kill 2 of your children, rape your wife, and then run out of your house, and you come home and you find out that this happened, and you get ready to retaliate, not escalate, to retaliate for the bloodshed, for the loss of life, for the loss of material things also, and just for the sake that nature gave you that right, okay? And yet when you go and you're deliberating on the manner of response, the police comes in and shelters the criminal from you and says that they're sending in more reinforcements to circle your home to prevent you from defending your home and your family. How would you take that? Would you believe that the police were honest brokers? Would you believe that the police had your best interest at heart? Would you believe that the system was set up to empower you and to remove the power of the assailant, or vice versa? This is what we're watching in real time. In real time. So listen what it says in this article. Washington is devoted to West Jerusalem. President Biden has stated. Now, sis, do you understand what I'm talking about with you? Okay. Because how can he be an honest broker if he says that he's devoted to West Jerusalem? But West Jerusalem is not the capital of occupied Palestine. They make it Tel Aviv. So why would you give recognition to West Jerusalem when that is up for grabs and is supposed to be discussed? Right there, that shows you that you are not impartial to the reality on the ground or the suffering of the people who are made to suffer under bombardment, starvation, rape, and all mannerism of violent, evil ways by people. I want you to listen to something, okay? Because it's very important. You know how we do. When we talk to you, we bring facts and we go into definitions because you can get a better understanding of what somebody is saying if you understand the words that they're using. So the word devoted, according to the dictionary, it's an adjective, and it means very loving or loyal. Loyal, faithful, true blue. So how in the world, if the president of the United States says that they want to be an honest broker of peace to prevent escalation, and yet he comes right out and says we're rushing reinforcements to defend the assailant, not the person that was beaten up, but the criminal that beat up the person. And then he says that we're devoted to protecting this criminal regardless of whatever evidence you have on the criminal. How would you take that? If the police told you after the guy raped and killed your family that they were loyal, they were faithful, they were true and true blue, and they were devoted to protecting the rapist murderer, how would you feel? I'm asking. Okay? I'm asking you these things. All right? So it says this right here. American ships and troops in the Middle East prepared for a likely Iranian attack on Israel on Friday, as President Joe Biden urged Tehran to change his mind. Nobody sees anything wrong with that. Nobody. As Joe Biden urged Tehran to change his mind. Now, here's the problem with that. Because this, when you look at the history of not just Israel, the United States, the UK, and Western nations, this is what they do. They provoke a conflict they strike first. And then if you are about to strike back, they say no escalation. If they hit you, rob you, and jump you together, because a lot of them jump on a weaker nation or smaller nations. They rob and rape and pillage the nation. And then if you are man enough or woman enough as a leader to stand up, they'll demonize you as a tyrant, a dictator, a murderer when they are doing the murdering, right? And then they'll request through all of the international organizations that you don't escalate. What the hell? What kind of justice is that? How many men out here will allow for that to happen to their family? And how many men will become and say, well, it happened and I just don't want to escalate. If you said that about the loss of your children and the raping of your wife should get there and set you up to take you out. I'm telling you this. Grow you a pair of cojones. Be men. You are supposed to protect your woman, your wife, with your life. Listen to what I'm saying to you. All right? Because this goes hand in hand with how Iran is supposed to not only protect the citizens, but they are supposed to protect those who protect the nation. Okay? So, the woman is the field to produce a people, to produce a nation. We see farmers that go out into the field, turn over the crops to kill pests that are deadly to their crops, right? How much more precious is that woman that is the field of life for you to pass on your seed, that you would not go and protect her against something like that? And when we look at it like that and we present that in a way for Iran, we get a different mind state. We get a different view, a different understanding of what is actually going on. They are trying to sell you madness. This is Walt Disney World. I continue to tell everybody. They want you to believe in bizarro world where up is down, down is up, in is out, and out is in. The victim becomes the aggressor becomes the victim, right? And don't escalate. So we'll go a little further, okay? Give me a second. I told you, we'll talk. I'll look in the chat in just a minute. And I want to thank everybody for joining me on. I know we got cut off on locals, but I want to thank everybody for joining me on the Red Pill Diaries, the Red Pill Journal, our sister channel, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, and Odyssey. Thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate that. Whether it's 1 or 1,000, thank you all. But listen, let's look at the word response. The definition of the word response. Response is a noun, okay? It means a verbal or written answer, some type of answer, right? This is what it says. A reply, an acknowledgement, a reaction. So to have a reaction, there must first be an action, right? Because is to respond, right, to that action. So why do they constantly mold this situation and try to shape it into Iran's escalating if Iran defends itself? I'm asking you these things. All right? According to the definition, what Iran would be doing would be responding to the belligerents of the West. They are justified under international law. Do you understand that? They are justified under the God-given rights of every man, woman, and child who are birthed into this universe to defend the sanctity of their lives. Do you understand that? Forget that they may be Persian or they may be from West Asia. Get that out of your mind for a minute and put America in Iran's stead and see what, in your mind, what would be the outcome if someone attacked America and killed her troops, her generals. If somebody attacked the UK and killed her troops, her generals. France, her troops, her generals. Germany, her troops, her generals. Why is it that the victim has to think about it and be calm and rational about the situation? Why can't the victim, who has been suffering not for one bomb strike, not for two, not for one day, not for 1 month, not for 1 year, but since Iran became an Islamic republic, the United States, the UK, and Israel have been trying to destroy its sovereignty. Do you understand that? They've been killing nuclear scientists. They've been assassinating professors of colleges over there. Do you know that? They've been paying disgruntled people within Iranian society to target infrastructure and vulnerable people in that society so they can cause chaos and it can give the West the right to intervene. All of what I'm saying, you can just Google it. I'm not making anything up. Huh? Not making anything up. So what we should now look at and say, look, Israel hit Iran. They violated the territorial integrity. They violated international law. They violated the rights of that nation, and they violated and disrespected every facet of the Iranian nation and Iranian society. They did that. And we can point to international law, and we can point to the actions to prove what we're saying. So what we're presenting to you is actual facts. Now, the question now should not be that we wonder if Iran will escalate. No. The question now should be, what response should Iran give in reply to the brutal and vicious attack against its territorial integrity and its sovereignty? Okay? That is what we should be doing, okay? Oh, man, I'm telling you, listen, God is good all the time. I'm telling you this now. I want you to listen to this clip. I played this. This clip is like 1 minute and 1 second. I want you to listen to what they're saying about Syria, okay? Because this goes hand in hand with Iran. And remember that this happened and it martyred Syrian troops and Syrian citizens also. And this was an actual attack on Syrian territory. So as we look at this, look at it through the lens of justice, regardless of what nation you're from, regardless of what color what sexuality you are. Look at it from the perspective of justice, right? And America is not the exception to the rule of justice. The West is not the exception to the rule of justice. They are getting their comeuppance now for the evil that they continue to make manifest across the globe. This is real. So I want you to listen to this real quick. And right after this, we're gonna dissect this and come back to this word response, okay? Pay attention.
America is showing itself to be the hypocrite of all hypocrites here. America is the country that is telling the world that it supports free trade and competition and free enterprise, and yet it is the single biggest block to free competition and free enterprise that exists on the earth. America has all of these countries under sanctions because it wants to use economics to dictate politics to other countries. It also wants to dictate culture and ethnic relations between nations which have been friends among themselves and lived and coexisted in peace for generations and centuries and even millennia until America came and set them at each other's throats. America has inherited the English curse of divide and conquer in the interests of their empire. And the world is now smartening up to this. We cannot be allowed to be forced to fight among ourselves. I was here in Serbia during the crippling sanctions that America used to try and crush Serbia. They had no effect. The people banded together. I was in Japan when America was sanctioning Japan, and I was advising the Prime Minister's office. They did not cow Japan. Japan continued to produce. I have been in Canada when American interests imposed sanctions on our wood industry. America is the global bully. And as the nations of the world wake up to this fact, the bully, when it's outnumbered by all countries in the earth, will fail and fall. And this is how empires fall. This is the fall of America. They, by sanctioning the world, are sanctioning themselves.
So now that we're back on this, I want you to think about this. The arrogance of the nation. And shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to everybody that's looking. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart to the depth of my soul. Let me take the time out right now to tell you I appreciate you because you did not have to come here. We don't have to agree, but we can be agreeable when we disagree. Those are actions of intelligent people. Those are actions of mature people. So even if you don't agree with what I'm saying, because I know you can't disprove it because I'm giving facts. But even if you don't agree, oh, we're adults, so let us be agreeable to disagree, and not hurl insults and stuff like that, because that's immature and childish. Okay, so listen, we see why Israel is had bombed that consulate. I'm gonna talk to you for a minute about a couple things, okay? And maybe it'll become a little bit clearer. Remember that Iran became a member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This is an organization that was created and it is dominated by China and Russia, okay? Iran also linked up the West Asian Economic Union with the Eurasian Economic Union that is run by Russia, which also is linked up with the China's union with ASEAN and the rest of those affiliate networks. On top of that, Iran has become a member of the BRICS. Now, with this, Iran has beaten U.S. sanctions. Its economy is not super good, but it is growing. Industry is straight, right? And we're seeing more of the world embrace Iran. This is a detriment to U.S. empire because U.S. empire wants to dictate and dominate the entire region. And they believe, and if you think what I'm saying is not has no weight, go read some of the writings on this situation. The United States says that they would use Afghanistan. Did they use Afghanistan as an underbelly to destabilize Central Asia, specifically and especially because it was the underbelly of Russia and China? Did America go into Afghanistan? How long did they stay? Over 2 decades. In these writings, they also state that they want to remove what they call, quote unquote, the theocracy in Iran and put into place a democratic, you know what they mean by that, a compliant vassal government to the West. And they want to use that for these pipelines. They want to cut Russia off, and they want to use the mineral wealth of Iran and all of these nations like Azerbaijan and all of these Central Asian states so that they can reroute the gas and the oil to Europe, right? But with Iran becoming a permanent member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and Iran becoming a permanent member of the BRICS Association, the odds of that happening is zilch. So guess what? They used their attack dog to escalate. They used it to escalate. Iran is not escalating. Iran is responding. Now, when we look at the word escalate, we can say that Iran is escalating. But the meaning that everybody else is using it for is wrong. We'll go to this. Let's go back to response. And then we'll go to escalate, okay? It means what? An answer, a reply, an acknowledgement. Now, why would America rush troops to defend Israel when the entire world saw what Israel did and the entire world outside of the West condemned this heinous act and this act of war? This would make America a party to the assassination of those generals and an attack on Iran, right? Right? According to how things run. So it is an answer. Did Iran bomb Israel's embassy? No. Is Iran assassinating IDF forces? No. All right. So if America was to rush weapons and troops to the region, it should be for the victim and not the aggressor, right? According to common sense. But she says that she's doing this to protect Israel. Israel should have thought of that. You know how everybody keeps saying that Iran should be very deliberate and patient, right? Why weren't they saying that with Israel? Why is the weight of the crime put on the victim? And why are they allowing the criminal to continue its criminality? I'm asking these things. You understand? Oh, by the way, everybody hit the like button. I know we got a lot of people in the chat, and I mean a lot of people watching, but we already know that when the show is over, YouTube is going to put one person watched, and they're going to put 2 likes, and they're going to. That's how they do. I don't care, but I'm looking at the thing, and I know we got a nice crowd up here. Thank you so much for joining. Everybody after the show, go back and look. Watch. They'll say 1 or 2 views. Watch what I tell you, or no views. Go immediately after the show is over. Do me that favor. It won't take you nothing but a couple seconds, and watch how it says, what it says on there, and you'll see that I'm not lying to you all. Okay. So look, it says answer, reply, acknowledgement. So why can't Iran put in the basic principles of nature and international law? Why is America intervening when she says that she is the beacon of democracy and the beacon of law, and she is trouncing international law to protect her ally who has committed crimes on a global scale? This is not something that's just stuck to the region. When you have international law, okay, the thing that the United States and the UK used to demonize and then break down and Libya and then kill Muammar Gaddafi. All right, even though they misrepresented the international law. Why are they forgetting about international law in this case? And why are they reversing it? They are backing the criminal and condemning the victim. Why? And remember what I was just saying. This was not just it happened in the Middle East. Okay, but this was not confined to the region, because what Israel did was the breaking of treaties, the breaking of international law. So this was global. That's what international means, global. It is not confined to a certain area. It is global. You understand that? So look, when we look at that, and then we understand what is going on, we go to the word escalate. And in this way of using escalate, right, it is the proper way to use it when concerning Iran. But when concerning these alternative media channels that continue to say Iran should not escalate, that is, they use it in an improper manner. So we're going to go to escalate. Okay, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, the word escalate is a verb. It is a verb, and we have words from it: escalated or escalating. Okay, and it says it's an intransitive verb to increase in extent, volume, number, amount, intensity, or scope. Now, let's look at this. Let's say Iran has a reprisal and launches missiles into occupied Palestine, right? Let's just say that. And when they do it, they destroy some military equipment, and maybe a few people die. Okay, would you call that escalation? That's, according to the dictionary, that's not escalation, right? Because they did not up the intensity or the scope of what just transpired. They didn't even get even, which is their right. By international standards and international law, and by the very laws of nature, they have the right to get even, right? And like they say on the streets, an even swap is no swindle. If you hit me, I'm going to hit you back. And that is called, once I hit you back and you realize that I hit just as hard as you do, I can take a punch just as well as you can, and I'm not budging off my square. Guess what that brings about? Deterrence. And from deterrence, you get what America, Israel, and the Western world continue to talk about: security, for fear of escalation. You understand? I know this is not hard, right? All right. So, as we look to what is going on, matter of fact, let me see if I can pull up something real quick. Give me 1 second while I'm talking to you all. All right, Joe Biden, this is what what he says right here. It says, don't, Biden said on Friday when asked what his message to was to Iran. Don't. That's what he said. Now, somebody should have posed a question instead of him asking him about Iran's response. They should have asked him about Israel's actions, which is forcing a response, not a response, but right? Meaning that they are reacting to something that happened. They are not the ones who put into action the situation. They are in a position to react, right? So Biden said that, and then he says, we are devoted to the defense of Israel. We will support Israel. We will help to defend Israel, and Iran will not succeed. Oh, my God. That in itself says it all. But you are an honest broker. You want peace. You don't want it to escalate. Iran had already laid out the terms for not striking Israel. And America ignored that. Britain ignored that. France ignored that. Israel ignored that. NATO ignored it. Iran said that if the UN Security Council had condemned Israel's heinous actions and had brought the perpetrators to justice, then there would be no need for Iran to respond, right? When America trumped up this thing called 9/11, right? Was she patient? Huh? Was she patient? When the world was saying, hey, don't act yet, what did America, we got to react, right? What did George Bush say? I hear you when some guy, when some worker, I think he was a first responder, was saying it, and he was like, can you hear me? And George Bush says, standing in the wreckage, I can hear you, and soon the whole world will hear you, right? And he ordered the invasion of Afghanistan on trumped up stuff. He ordered the invasion of Iraq on trumped up stuff and lies, right? Where was that patience? What was that patience? Huh? Where was that demand for restraint? I'm asking you those things. You're telling me that Great Britain has a right to respond. France has a right to respond. European nations have a right to respond. America has a right to respond. Russia, China, Iran, Venezuela, South and Central America, the Caribbeans, Africa, and the rest of the world don't have that right. They must show restraint every time America provokes with sanctions, with covert assassinations, with putting military bases around you, with putting warships close to your territorial waters, with flying warplanes close to your airspace. You are not to react. Man, if you don't get out of here with that foolishness, stop it. Because if you put America in that position, ask the question, would she be restrained? Would she react? Huh? I'm asking. This is what you should be asking all of these and saying to all of these alternative programs that are continually talking about Iran should restrain itself and not fall into a trap of Israel and America. I have been telling you all this. Listen to me good. I have been telling you all this long before October 7th. Go back, check my record. I've been telling you that there is going to be a regional conflagration. Do you understand that? And it's going to escalate when they attack Persia. What is going on right now? Go back and look. What is going on? Everybody was so focused on Ukraine. Everybody was so I said, listen, that's one thing. But it's going to be a major war in the MENA region, Middle Eastern, North African region, because the situation in it is too hot. Because Israel continues to bomb and flaunt international law. As I continue to tell you, this just didn't happen with the bombing of the consulate. This didn't just happen with the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi. This didn't happen with the shakeup in Lebanon. This happened. America and the West had these plans on the drawing board, and they felt that they can use one of their assets and then use which is a pawn in Lebanon. And when they get tired of him, they'll kill him, elevate his son, and then they can demand Syrian forces pull out of Lebanon. And once they put the pressure on Syria and pull Syrian forces out of Lebanon, then Israel can fly freely over Lebanese airspace and do what it is doing. So America went to work and they assassinated, the Western world assassinated one of their pawns, Rafik Hariri. And this, with the MI6 and the Mossad and the CIA, they pushed this propaganda program about Assad must go, even though Lebanon was part of Syria. I want you to think about that too. Even though at one time, Lebanon was part of Syria. See, all of these nations that you see right now, they are a result of colonialism. France partitioned Syria. Do you understand? Great Britain partitioned Palestine and Jordan. Great Britain and the United States made these fiefdoms like the United Arab Emirates and Qatar and all of this stuff. These nations are byproducts of the West. And when the West collapses, they too, the regimes in those nations will collapse. That's why you see the rush by the West to intervene in this region. That's why you see Africa throwing off the shackles of colonialism. But the United States, France, Great Britain, and Italy, they continue to try to push more, quote unquote, terror elements into North Africa so that they can justify their presence there, so that they can put military forces there, so that they can destabilize it and bring in corporations so that the corporations can pillage the place and steal off the resources so that they can live in luxury while these people are living in poverty. All of these are designs of the West. You cannot say it's not true because the history proves that it is. Do you understand? And because the system is imploding, and it is imploding at breakneck speed, the American war planners, the neocons and the neoliberals, are now pushing their plans up because they see that, hey, we only have a shot in the dark at this thing and we got to move now. So they're upping the intensity. They are the ones escalating. So we should ask the question, is Iran, if they strike, is that escalation? Or what does the West and the Anglo world want? Capitulation? Huh? Oh, man, I'm telling you, you have to look at these things in a real, yeah, Joel, thank you, Joel. Yeah, hit the like button, please. Oh, yeah. None your business. And I love that name. I told you that before. That's right. I got to highlight this right here. That's right. Here we go right here. I told you I got a well-informed audience. Iran also discovered a truckload of lithium last year. So, as I said, they want to control the resources. See, this is why most people say that America goes around the world. She sends her Navy in the so-called international waterways, airspace, and everything else for freedom of navigation, right? That is not what it's for. It is to pressure nations. And it is also, she wants to put her military in strategic regions of the world. Wherever there can be a pipeline, wherever there can be new resources, wherever there can be found gas, gold, oil, all of that stuff. She wants them there. Why? Because she wants to hold their economies and their sovereignty up with the barrel of the gun. She wants them to continue to use the dollar at all costs. And if you get off the dollar, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. So she uses the military as an enforcer. But here's the thing. She's losing in this battle. And the more she deploys the military, the more she does war games, the more she has these covert operations, the more she funds these terrorist organizations or these color revolutions, the more she goes into debt. The more she goes into debt, guess what? The more She has to borrow from the very nations that she's trying to encircle and suppress. So she's caught in a catch-22. But she believes, and this is real, and you can hear it when they talk. They believe that they can overcome the situation, even though America is the largest debtor nation in the world. Man, listen, these wars are destroying America, whether you want to accept this or not. Right? These deployments overseas, these war games to provoke and stoke tensions in all these different regions. This is costing America, not just in monetary terms, which is huge monetary, but political capital. She has spent all of her political goodwill and her political capital because she continues to provoke and stoke tensions and divisions around the world. And then she comes before you on the camera and says, America is for freedom. The UK is for freedom. NATO is for freedom. In every instance, we see the actions show that she's the opposite of what she claims to be. Let me play something for you, okay? I want to play something for you real quick, and you guys bear with me, okay? I will be back right after this, but I want you to hear this right here. Where is it at? Right. All right. So remember, I told you that these wars, we're not just talking about Iran. We're not just talking about Palestine. We're talking about Africa, Asia, the Eurasia, the Middle East, Latin America, Central America, the Caribbean, North America. We're talking about the total spectrum of man and mankind. And listen to what Jim Rogers had to say about the place that America now finds herself at because of the Ukrainian conflagration. Okay? Pay close attention to this, and we'll be back right after this.
Territorial concession, that's what the Ukrainians would say. But is it in the big scheme of history? Probably not.
And that's obviously a matter of perspective, and a valid one at that. Would you say, though, that that is how this conflict gets resolved, if you were to speculate?
Well, we certainly have to do something. As I said, it's a foolish war. It's costing a lot of people a lot of money and lives, of course. So somebody's got to figure out whatever we have to do, let's solve this problem. And that may be a solution. I have no idea what it'll take. You know, maybe if we all drop billions of dollars into Ukraine, that would solve the problem. Something needs to be done.
In the meantime, we do have this war creating a stronger relationship between Russia and China. And it has led to a discussion of the potential bifurcation of the global monetary system, with perhaps some kind of commodity-backed central bank digital currency that is used by China, Russia, some of the BRIC countries. You have prognosticated about the ultimate collapse of the dollar as a sole global reserve currency. Has this war accelerated that?
Yes, unfortunately, the war has accelerated. You know, the world's international medium of exchange is supposed to be neutral. You can do anybody can do anything with it they want to. But unfortunately, Washington is changing those rules. Washington says, well, if we don't like you, you cannot use the US dollar. And people say, wait a minute. An international medium of exchange is supposed to be neutral. That's not the way it's supposed to work. So for many reasons, many countries are now looking, even our allies are now looking for something to compete because it could happen to them. You know, all of a sudden Washington could say, you're finished. So for political reasons, it's accelerating the move to looking for a competitor to the dollar. And of course, the economic reason. We're the largest debtor nation in world history. I'm not the only person who knows that. The whole world knows that historically, big currencies, major top currencies change every 100 years or so. So for political and economic reasons, it's already in process. And this may make it worse because Washington has said, we'll take your money away from you if we don't like you. Many people have had their assets seized by the U.S. because they don't like them now.
So that's one of the clips from one of my videos earlier. Now, Jim Rogers told you that the Ukrainian war accelerated de-dollarization. And America is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. Now, if you look at the situation and you look at America's footing globally, you see a downward trend, right? And you see desperation. You can smell it. It's in there. Because this is why, listen, this is why when people talk about the situation with Russia, you know, even alternative media, they're like, America shouldn't be fighting this war with Russia. They should focus their attention on China, right? This is what they're saying. I've been talking about alternative media says this too. Now listen, why? Because China is not a Western nation. China is not a white nation. Honestly, I have to address these things the way they are. This is not about this. I have to be truthful about this. Okay, listen. It is not a part of the cabal. It is not a part of the Western club, and it refuses to play ball. Do you know how China became a permanent member of the United Nations? Huh? Do you do it? And if you know, I know if you listened to my shows before, you should know. This is how China got a seat. And it's just by luck she got a seat at the UN Security Council. When the United States and the West were putting this thing together after the fall of the League of Nations, and you can go find the writings of this stuff, they wanted an all-white, all-Christian Security Council. That is the truth. China, they thought that their man in China, Shanghai Chek, would win in the Civil War. But Mao Zedong had another plan. Him and Huan Lao and Deng Xiaoping and all of them, they had another plan. No, we don't want to mimic the West. We don't want that. We want our culture and our nation with our people. And they set it up because they thought that Shanghai Chek would be the leader of China. And he was even though he was non-white, he was a Christian. And so they set this, and they lost. And China, the People's Republic, became the permanent member of the United Nations. You know that? This is for you who don't know how China became a permanent member. And I want you to look at this. If you don't think that this is the whole Western world is the system is predatory, we have the United States, France, the UK, and Russia. Four. We'll move Russia out of the mix for a minute. We have three Western nations. Russia aspired to be accepted by the West. That's why they allowed talks to take place. That's why they put their foot in their mouth for a while and allowed the West to do what they were doing, because they thought eventually that the West would accept them. But the West says that they're orcs, snow niggers. That's what they say. And they would never accept them. That's why they have no problem supporting Nazis in Ukraine. Not one African nation with 1.6 billion people in Africa, not one on the Security Council. Latin America, not one. The Middle East, not one. Only two from Asia, China and Russia. People say, well, Russia's a European country. The 70 to 80% of Russia lies in Asia, not Europe. You understand? Okay. Now, Let's go to something. This is about 52 seconds. And this is what the foreign minister of the Russian Federation, Sergei Lavrov, had to say about the United States, the UK, France, Canada, Australia, and the largest and the greatest terror organization in the history of man and mankind, NATO, the North Atlantic Terrorist Organization. I want you to listen to this.
The destructive policy of the US and its allies is based on the rules that they invented and that are known well to everyone. Basically, this is the set of double standards. This policy has destabilized many countries and even regions. In order to preserve their own hegemony, the West has been using broadly the well-known colonial principle of divide and rule. They deliberately fuel inter-ethnic and inter-religious as well as inter-state conflicts. Those who do not agree face various coercive tools. You are well aware of that, be it direct military interference or illegitimate unilateral sanctions or demonizing in global information space.
So Lavrov talked about America and the West seeking hegemony at all costs, right? Now, let's see if it's true. Did they lie and then destroy an entire nation because they wanted the gold of that nation and the foreign currency reserves of the nation, and they didn't want that nation to inspire an entire continent? Of course they did. Look at Hillary Clinton's emails. Look at her writings. When they bombed Libya, they bombed Libya. A lot of people thought it was because Muammar Gaddafi was trying to empower Africa with a continent-wide currency called the gold-backed dinar. That was one of the reasons. As I told you all on my show before, one of the other main reasons is that Libya were found to have one of the largest underground water reserves on the planet. On the planet. And what Muammar Gaddafi did, he had a council, the Green Council, come up with a plan on how to use that water, not for just the benefit of for Libya, but for the benefit of Africa and the entire world. And his plan was this: to take the desert area, to irrigate it, and use those massive supplies of water to turn the desert into farmland and a tropical lush. Guess who was given the power to help bring this about? A Canadian pipeline company. They were responsible for helping put this into action. And listen, the war started right after the project was completed. And when the project was completed, the company called their government, Canada. Canada told the US and NATO that thing was about to come online. And one of the first things that NATO did in striking Libya was to strike the water reserves, the pipeline, to bring it to naught. Isn't that something? That's not psychopathic. That's not having a hegemonic mind. As a matter of fact, the word hegemony means leadership or dominance, especially by one country or social group over others. Leadership, dominance, dominion. This is why America has no problem saying that we're pivoting to Asia to stop China. China wants to supplant the United States in Asia. Duh. Newsflash. China is an Asian nation, not America. So why should America be allowed to dominate its neighborhood? Iran wants to dominate West Asia or / the Middle East. What business is it of yours? You reside thousands of miles away. And if somebody comes to the Western world, remember the Monroe Doctrine? Do you remember that? Where America asserted her dominance, not just in America, not just on the North American continent, but she asserted her dominance in the entirety of the Western Hemisphere. and said it, her policies and her rules are not to be challenged by any nation or combination of nations. Hegemonic, right? Russia is not to have a sphere of influence. Iran can't have a sphere of influence. China is not allowed to walk free in his own neighborhood, off his own porch, in his own yard, because China is aggressive. But China is not setting up military bases by the United States. But the United States is setting up military bases by China. Iran is aggressive. But America and Israel just bombed Syria, and they are occupying and stealing the wealth of Syria, stealing the wealth of Iraq, and are trying to make war with Iran. Iran does not have any military base in Canada, does not have any military base in Cuba, does not have any military bases on the Pacific Islands, does not have any military bases in Mexico. But Iran is the aggressive one. Yeah, we see that, right? Oh, Russia is the aggressive one. How dare Russia extend this military to NATO's border? You mean to tell me that Russia, Vladimir Putin, is so evil that he picked up the largest country in the world and moved it westward? He picked it up, put it on his back, and toted it westward, right? Oh, no, he didn't do that. Then how did he come about getting to NATO's borders? NATO expanded eastward, even breaking and violating the agreements that they had with the former Soviet Union and Russia. But Russia is the aggressive one. Putin is the bloodshedder. Putin is the dictator. Man, bizarro world, bizarro world, bizarro world, right? And if you fall for this, you crazy as hell. I'm telling you. Let's put a couple things in the chat up on the thing, on the screen, okay? We'll go up to, let's see. Sam Stone says, the Zion-Nazi apartheid genocidal parasitic state of Israel does everything in conjunction with the Zion-Nazi controlled US and UK. Mic drop moment. Boom. I'm telling you, you're on point with it. And then Sam says, he goes and says, the USA, UK, and Germany are the main suppliers of weapons and money to Israel. Now, I'm glad you brought this up, okay? Because I want you to see the arrogance, which goes back to the hegemony, which goes back to the hegemonic state of mind. America goes and says, we're going to arm Ukraine. As a matter of fact, let me play a couple clips, all right, to make this more boom in your face, okay? We're going to go back and play a couple old clips, and then we're going to address what Sam said, because it's on point. I'm telling you this, okay? So, I didn't even think I was going to play the clips, but check it out, though. This is the United States, Joe Biden. Pay close attention as he talked about Ukraine, okay? And then we're going to address these things on the other side. Bear with me. Thank you all for joining me. I'm from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. And thank you for staying tuned while we do this. I really, really appreciate it. I love you guys. If you love truth, check this out.
President Biden on the final leg of his mission to Europe. He's in Finland this morning after making a pledge of support for Ukraine at the NATO summit in Lithuania.
We will not waver. We will not waver. I mean that. Our commitment to Ukraine will not weaken. We will stand for liberty and freedom today, tomorrow, and for as long as it takes.
Elizabeth Schultz is with the president in Helsinki. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning, George. In the final stop of this trip, President Biden is taking a victory lap, touting the expansion of the NATO alliance to include Finland and soon Sweden. Biden just met with the president of Finland, insisting that the U.S. and Nordic allies are more united than ever against Vladimir Putin, with Russia's border just about 100 miles from here. It is a split screen from almost exactly 5 years ago to this day, when former President Trump met here with Putin. In that major speech in Lithuania, Biden blasted the Russian leader for underestimating how the U.S. and its allies will stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes. They're now pledging long-term security guarantees. And after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky sharply criticized NATO countries, yesterday he struck a much more positive, grateful tone in an hour-long meeting with President Biden. both leaders calling that meeting a success. But at the end of the day, there is still no timeline for when Ukraine could join the NATO alliance, even after the war ends. George.
Okay, Elizabeth. Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC.
So now, you see the hegemonic mind state. Russia did not extend Russia's border 100 miles westward. NATO extended NATO's borders hundreds of miles eastward. Okay? So Russia is the culprit. Vladimir Putin is evil. The only way that you can rationalize this is if you're from Bizarro World or you've been drinking the Kool-Aid that they've been selling to everybody. All right, let's go a little further. This is a short clip too. And you know NATO makes no statements without the approval of the United States when it comes to major things, especially war and the consequences of their proxies, okay? Check this out.
So today, leaders have endorsed NATO's new strategic concept. It makes clear that Russia poses the most significant and direct threat to our security. In the current concept, we state that Russia is a strategic partner. Ukraine can count on us for as long as it takes. They are fighting for their independence, but they're also fighting for values which are important for NATO, fundamental for NATO. The sovereignty, the territorial integrity of every nation, and therefore this matters for our security. The decision to invite Finland and Sweden to become members demonstrates that NATO's door is open. It demonstrates that President Putin did not succeed in closing NATO's door. NATO's door remains open. Allies are also investing more in modern capabilities, contributing more to NATO deployments and exercises, and we have agreed to increase NATO's common funding.
So now, we're going to address that in relation to what we were just talking about, okay? Both videos we're going to address in relation to what Sam Stone said, and we're going to address it in relation to what we were just talking about, okay? So first, Joe Biden says that the U.S. in the West is devoted to Ukraine, this cause in Ukraine, right? The word devoted is an adjective. It means very loyal, faithful, true, all right? All right. So now, when we look at that and then we say, okay, are they loyal to the cause of domination? Sure they are. They expanded and continue to expand. And guess what they do? They openly tell you, we're going to arm Ukraine with this. We're going to arm Ukraine with that. We're going to arm Israel with this. We're going to arm this with that. We're going to give this to that person. We're going to give this to that person. And as soon as, now listen, they say, these are our allies. Now, the West, only the West are allowed to have allies, because just the hint of China going to Russia, China is providing Russia. This is unacceptable. Even though China and Russia are strategic allies, this is unacceptable. The United States sends Janet Yellen over there. They send other people to talk and say, and the European Union does the same thing, and they say this is unacceptable for us. Tell me, when did China become a province of the United States? When did China become a member of the EU? So if China is a sovereign territory and a sovereign nation, and that means that they have interests for their nation and their people that pertains to their sovereignty and their well-being, right? And they might clash with yours. So how are you going to tell me what I can and can't do with my friend or my cousin or my sister or my brother or my wife? And I see you arming yours to the teeth, and you're telling me I can't do that. That's that exceptional mind. That's that insanity up there. I can do it, but you can't. And I'm going to tell the world I'm doing it. But if you do it, you're belligerent and you're violating international law. Man, if you don't stop this foolishness. And then listen. So I was doing something. I put these keywords in. U.S. will not tolerate USSR base in Cuba, right? Remember that NATO expanded, got Germany, a unified Germany. Then they started taking, and I say taking because they had these color revolutions and they paid off a lot of people and put people in positions of power who eventually turned the policies of these nations in Eastern Europe to becoming part of the EU and NATO. This is illegal, and this is a violation of those nations' territory and sovereignty too. But they did it anyhow, and they expanded nation after nation after nation up to Russia's borders. Now, the reason I say that is because you heard in that clip here that, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna play part of that clip again because it's a point in here. I'm gonna stop it right when it gets to that point. I want you to hear this, okay? It's very important because I put something in the search engine that I want you to hear that pertains to a certain point in this video. All right, so pay close attention again.
President Biden on the final leg of his mission to Europe. He's in Finland this morning after making a pledge of support for Ukraine at the NATO summit in Lithuania.
We will not waver. We will not waver. I mean that. Our commitment to Ukraine will not weaken. We will stand for liberty and freedom today, tomorrow, and for as long as it takes.
Elizabeth Schultz is with the president in Helsinki. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning, George. In the final stop of this trip, President Biden is taking a victory lap, touting the expansion of the NATO alliance to include Finland and soon Sweden. Biden just met with the president of Finland, insisting that the U.S. and Nordic allies are more united than ever against Vladimir Putin, with Russia's border just about 100 miles from here. It is a split.
Right there, with Russia's borders just about 100 miles from here, okay? Right? And America says there's no threat. There's no threat. We are not after Russia. Okay. So I want you to put this in your search engine. I just did that as they were talking. Because when I heard what he said or what the commentator was saying immediately, I said, you know what? I want to measure this real quick. So check this out. I put these words in the search engine so you can do the same so you'll know that I'm not lying or I'm not embellishing anything. I put distance from Cuba to Florida. All right. And it says people also ask, how far is Cuba from Florida at the closest point? And it comes up with 103 miles. So check this out. It's very important that you remember that part. 103 miles. We just heard in that clip that America is about 100 miles. Biden was about 100 miles from Russia's border when he had this symbolic meeting in Helsinki or wherever he was at, right? Okay. Now listen to this right here. President John F. Kennedy said the missiles would not be tolerated and insisted on their removal. Khrushchev refused. The standoff nearly caused a nuclear exchange and is remembered in this country as the Cuban Missile Crisis. Now, why did I read that, okay? Because Cuba, right, is further away from the U.S. state of Florida by 3 miles than where Joe Biden was meeting officials near Russia's borders. John F. Kennedy thought that it was a strategic threat and a national security threat to the United States that Russia or the Soviet Union put missiles in Cuba, which was about 103 miles away from the shores of the U.S. But it's not a threat for the United States to set up ABM systems and cruise missile systems 100 miles from Russia's border. Make that make sense? It's only a security threat if it bothers America. You don't have that same luxury when dealing with the empire and the hypocrisy of the Western nations. You understand? It's right there. I'm pulling it up live on the air. I'm looking down, talking to you all, and pulling this stuff up right on the air with certain words. I haven't embellished anything. I haven't made up anything. And I'm telling you the truth. Let's go a little further. Let's go a little further. We'll go down a little bit. Let's see. I see Sam Stone a lot. Let me get somebody else that says all back, and I'll try to get back to you, Sam. It says I'll be back. Oh, okay. The Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll be back. Okay, I like that. Would Western embassies now be at risk because of these attacks? Sure. With this violation of international law, if someone were to attack the U.S. or the West, they could not then scream that this was an act of war when they are blatantly and purposely misleading the people and omitting in the media and in public that what Israel did in conjunction with the UK and the US was a violation of international law and a direct act of war according to the UN. All right. So, and I'll Be Back says, is Syria at war with Israel? Of course they are. This attack is certainly an act of war. Of course it is. By any and all standards it is. And it says, shout out to Random Zerg. I keep missing the name. My guy Joel Bradford is in the building. And then let's see. Taro Man Harris. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. It makes getting on here a little bit easier, staying a little longer. You know, I have a lot going on, but I still have to talk to the people and give them the truth. Let's see. Thompson, I'm sorry, Thompson. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the rest of it. But good evening to you, my brother. Thank you for joining. Thank you. I really appreciate it. TNT is in the building. He says, Finland and Sweden just ended themselves by joining NATO. Of course they did. Of course. Of course. But see, I'm going to blame Russia a little bit with that too. Because Russia is fighting Ukraine right now, okay? The proxies of the West, right? To keep more NATO bases from sprouting up close to Russia's border, right? They are close to Russia's borders. Russia should have just, when all of this was escalating, if it were me, because America keeps upping the ante, I would have gone into Finland or Sweden, and I would have gone in there and made me a 50 to 100 mile buffer zone. And if America gets outraged, I say, are you outraged occupying Diego Garcia, Guam, the Philippines? What about in Australia? Are you outraged there? Are you outraged in all of the military bases that illegally occupy certain areas of Africa and the Middle East? What about that illegal base that you're putting down in Central America that is a disputed area between Venezuela and one of the Latin American nations? So you're telling me that that's okay, but because you're doing this for your national security, but I can't do the same for mine when NATO is continually pressing me on all corners? Huh? I would get breathing room. I would have gotten me some breathing room, and then I would have told the Nordic nations this right here. If you ever want this property back, we won't annex it. But if you ever want it back, we're going to have to keep forces in this area for at least 25 years to make sure that the NATO threat does not reconstitute itself right here. That would be the smartest strategic thing to do, even while persecuting and prosecuting the war in Ukraine against the West. Okay. DG Tur says Z is in the house. Salute to you too. Salute to you too. And he says, no reverse gear. They won't effing stop. You better believe it. And this is one of the points I was making. They won't stop. They will not stop. And to believe they will puts you and your nation's security at risk. So again, when there was an announcement that there would be Nordic nations joining NATO, I would have made my move then to protect my people, and I would not be surrounded on all sides by NATO. I would not allow that to happen because it's too convenient for America. And we've seen that the American leaders are belligerent and they're arrogant and they disregard the will of their own people and the will of the whole population of the planet Earth. You understand? As a matter of fact, well, as I said that, it came to mind another clip that I have. I want to play this. I told you I'm on time with this stuff. And I know the big channels, check this out. There are certain big channels that didn't used to play clips like this and that are now playing clips like this, and they have hundreds of thousands of followers. And YouTube continues to censor me. All right. But like I said, I'm your favorite channel. You better believe that. So I'm gonna play this clip. Here we are right here. This is from the Russian ambassador. Check it out.
U.S. authorities bear quite a responsibility for financing and instigating acts of terrorism against Russia, against Russian people, and we truly think this is a dangerous path. They have no limits in what they believe they are allowed to do. We will use our utmost capabilities to stop it. Everything which is being said by Russia on important issues, not just recently, but for quite a while already, is being labeled as nonsensical or even disinformation by the US. They don't pay any attention to any evidence, to any logic, to any common sense. They only promote their own narratives, which are futile, which has no connection to the actual situation. They want Russia to become weaker. They want to defeat Russia strategically, as they have set forth this in their own official documents, and thus they continue this NATO expansion course that runs very contrary to the core security interests of Russia. But I will underscore that there is no way that countries that apply for NATO membership expect this to happen against Russia's national interest, that they will enhance their own security through NATO membership. They want to describe NATO as the most successful alliance in history. This is a total historic failure. They wanted to achieve more security for Europe and Euro-Atlantic, and they achieved less. This is a complete failure of all the US administration that followed this expansion since 1996, and they will see more of something that would endanger their security and not enhance it.
So the Russian Federation's ambassador, when he says they're without limits, right? According to that meaning of that phrase, it means without being controlled or stopped, without being limited, allowing costs to increase without a limit. That's what they're doing around the globe. Now, have you ever noticed this? That wherever there's terror, wherever there's violence, right? Wherever there's dissatisfaction and disagreement, wherever there's division, America's there, the West is there. All while trying to say that they're fighting terror. Think about this. I want you to think about this. Let me put something on your mind for a minute. America has been in Colombia for the longest, for over a decade, right? With this so-called war on drugs and war on cocaine and stuff, right? Has it gotten better or worse? Tell me that. And if it got worse, and you have the so-called most powerful military fighting force there, and you have your intelligence agencies there, what good are they there for? What are they there for? Either they are helping to make the situation worse for material gain, or they're inept. Do you understand? So let's look at Afghanistan. The Taliban had eradicated poppy growing, you know, where you get opium and all of these drugs from. As soon as America went in there, guess what they did? They paid the people to kill the crops that would have made them self-sufficient, to restart replanting the poppy seeds, and then Afghanistan became the largest poppy producer in the world again under America's auspices. So did it get better or worse? Look at the situation in Haiti. This is an American contraption. This is a French contraption. The French, to this very day, still hold over the head of the Haitians a judgment that was levied against the Haitians in a European court. France took Haiti to court because the Haitians would no longer be slaves and would no longer make rum and rubber that was a big part of France's trade. And France said because they rebelled against that, they lost billions of dollars. And the European court ruled in favor of France, and Haiti has to pay that money and has been paying that money for decades. You understand that? Because they didn't want to be a slave. And America uses Haiti as a drug transit from east to west and west to east. So did it get better or worse? Look at Libya. Is it better or worse? Look at Iraq. Better or worse? Syria, better or worse? Somalia, better or worse? Sudan, better or worse? When you see all of these tragedies around the globe, what one must do is apply mathematics, right? Because mathematics is not prejudice, right? I don't care how much you add 1 and 1 together, you'll never get 45. I don't care how many times you multiply 3 times 3, backwards and forward, you'll never get 179. So mathematics is the great equalizer. And all one has to do now is look at all of the conflagrations, all of the rebellion around the globe, the dissatisfaction, and look right at the heart of it and see what lies at the heart. And when we do that and we do an honest appraisal on that, what do we see? That the common denominator, you know, that you use in math is the United States. The common denominator is the UK. The common denominator is the North Atlantic Terrorist Organization. And yet they're screaming about a new European security architecture when they are the ones who are destabilizing the entire planet so that they can keep their hegemonic rule over everybody. Make that make sense. Huh? Make it make sense. Now I'll tell you what. So, in the comments, we got another super chat. TNT is in the building. Thank you so much. TNT says, Rashid, I love your passion. Thanks for all you do spreading the truth. Thank you so much. I love you back, man. See, this is the only way I know how to be. I think what's missing in today's dialogue with people and the day's talk is being real. I think what is missing is being able to look a person in their eye and tell them what it is. Instead of making excuses, instead of running away from it, looking a person in the eye and tell, listen, this is what I can do. This is what I can't do. This is what I stand for. This is what I don't stand for. So that there'll be no mistakes about this when dealing with me. You either deal with me because of the passion and the truth, or you don't. I cannot be other than that, lest I become other than myself. And I'm not blind, deaf, and dumb to the knowledge of self. So I thank you for that. I really thank you for that. Let's see. Randall, he says this is war on drugs, not against. Yeah, you know, that's how the CIA and all of these alphabet agencies make their extra income. My girl is in the building. I gotta give a shout out to Holly. Holly is in the building. DG Tur says this. No need for poppy fields when you have fentanyl. Oh man. Yeah, Holly says this right here. They never forgave Haiti. They never have. See, so when you look at Haiti from the perspective of Western press, they look like savages running and fighting and killing each other. But when you dissect this and you look at the puppeteers around there, you understand that it is not Haitians, it is the West. Check this out. Let me tell you something about Haiti. Since Holly says this, I'm gonna share some of you might know this and some of you may not. And the areas now we've been doing renovations all day long, I'm telling you. But check this out. Just put in a new counter sink and countertop in the kitchen, everything, you know, doing that thing. But check this out. Haiti, I think it was under Bill Clinton, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong with the president, so don't quote me on the president, but I believe it was Bill Clinton. The West did a study. As a matter of fact, the Haitians had a study done. I believe the Chinese did one for them. And they found out that the water surrounding Haiti is some of the richest waters in the Western Hemisphere. With untapped oil and gas, they found clues that says that there may be all kind of minerals under the seabed down there. And they said that in Haiti, it has all kind of precious metals and commodities and oil and gas on land, which would make it tens of times more wealthy than the Dominican Republic, which shares the island with it, right? So when these reports came out, guess what happened? Jean Aristide, who was the president, he had become the most popular president in the history of Haiti. Jean Aristide. Look it up. Jean Aristide, so that you'll know I'm not lying to you. He was meeting with the Western world and he was saying, listen, we found all of this wealth and I want to get my people out of this condition that they're in. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to allow Western corporations to come in and help us extract these resources for the benefit of the people. But here's the kicker. He stated that the West could not own a portion that was equal to or greater than the people in Haiti. So the majority must be owned by Haitian corporations or companies or the Haitian people. This was unacceptable to Bill Clinton, right? And so they went and they had a talk with him again, and he says that he wanted to take the revenue earned from the resources and invest in the infrastructure and invest in education and healthcare and stuff. You know, what a real leader would do, all right? And this was unacceptable by Bill Clinton, and they kidnapped a sitting head of state. The United States did. Kidnapped him out of office, out of his palace. And then they held him hostage. This is the truth. Go look this up. They held him hostage. And the only way, and the people were riding across Haiti, telling them to return. Go Google it up, and you'll see all these signs of Aristide everywhere. The people running through the streets with signs of Aristide. And the people were like in a fit, in a rage. And the only way the United States returned Aristide, they forced him to sign a document, a pledge, that he would no longer involve himself in Haitian politics or anything resulting in the national security of Haiti, because it was a danger to the United States national interest. And once he was forced to do that, if he violated, the United States could bring him to jail and put him in prison for life in the United States. And that was, he signed it, and that was the only way he was able to go back to Haiti. But that's democracy in the West. You know that happened. Google it. So when America sheds these crocodile tears about the suffering of Haitians, man, get out of here with that foolishness. Get out of here with that madness. For real. Get out of here with that stupidness, that stupidity. You know what I mean? So they'll use anything to trick you, to fool you. But they can't fool me, not nowadays, no. So listen, I want to say this to you all before we go off the air. And please listen. I know I say this, but I'm going to say it a lot. From the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate your time, because that is the one resource that is not renewable. And once your time is gone, you can never get it back. So I hope the time that you spent with me today was worth it. And I hope that you got an equal or greater share in return for your time. Tomorrow, we're going to try to do a live stream, and then we're going to try to do a channel member stream if we get a chance. If we are not able to do, we'll flip it and do it Sunday, okay? God willingly. I always say God willingly because we don't know unforeseen events and all of this stuff, so we're going to try to do that. I want each and every one of you to join me. Please hit the like button and check this out. Remember what I told you about all the people that's in here. Go. Now, just my luck, YouTube might say 5 people or 10 people have been in here. But go look after we go off the air and see whether or not I'm telling you a lie. On that note, I want to thank each and every one of you and know that I love you from the bottom of my heart if you love truth. But know that the love that my God has for you will always make the love that I have for you pale in comparison. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. And remember, do right, not because people are watching, but because it is the right thing to do, and God is always watching. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. Thank you all. I'm out of here. Peace.